Representative, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
You're running against an incumbent who has won statewide 3 times. He has $30 million in the bank, arguably the most influential person in the legislature. Where do you see a path to victory?
You know, Senator Cornyn said that he should be worried about his position, and I agree.
That Patrick should be worried about his position.
Correct. Right. After 30 years of Republican leadership, the people of Texas are ready for change. You know, Lieutenant Governor talks about the Texas miracle, but so many people feel like they aren't a part of that miracle. Our education system is underfunded. Teachers are leaving the profession. They feel that they aren't respected.
Yeah.
They're not paid enough. Our healthcare system, we have the highest rate of uninsured. We have women who are dying in pregnancy. Our affordability is an emergency these days. People feel like they can't afford their groceries, their rent, their pharmacy. You know, it's really gotten tough out there. And so in the last 12 years, what has Lieutenant Governor done to make things better for the average Texan? So I think Texans are ready for change. That's the path. The path to victory is simple. People are ready for leadership, for someone with problem solving, someone who has a steady hand and is ready to help the people of Texas not divert attention away on issues that really don't impact them in their daily lives.
Texans know Dan Patrick, and they have for a number of years. They don't know Vikki Goodwin outside Austin, though. What's your pitch to a suburban or rural voter in this state who doesn't know you?
Well, if you care about your public schools, you're going to want new leadership, because in the last session we sent $1 billion out the door to a private school voucher scam, and that's only going to grow. Our funding of private schools is going to grow exponentially if we continue to have Dan Patrick in office. So if they are interested in supporting their public schools and making sure they are the best, back when Ann Richards was governor, our schools ranked 7th. They don't anymore. We've continually slid, and the solution is making sure that our teachers have the resources that they need, that we can provide the programs that help our students, and that, for me, I think reaching the suburban parents is, we care about your public schools. That's the backbone of most communities, and people really care about their schools. Healthcare is another huge issue too, though.
I've heard Democrats talk for a while about public schools, and clearly it's something that is a lightning rod issue right now in this state. But people haven't voted when it comes to education on that issue in decades.
Well, I think it's now gotten to the point where more people are aware as neighborhood schools are closing down. Austin is shutting down 10 schools. I know districts across the state have been talking about the schools that are closing. When it impacts something right there in your neighborhood, people really do start to take notice. I have a sister-in-law who is a teacher up in the Allen School District. It's a wealthy school district, they do well, but she asked me, why are we not getting the raises that we expect? Why is our district having another deficit? And I said, it's because the state is not paying its share. The state, we are a prosperous state. We underspent our budget by $4 billion this past year. And we have this, our ESF, our rainy day fund, is overflowing, but we continue to underfund our schools.
When it comes to public schools and the underfunding of public schools, as you've said so often on the campaign trail, would you support raising taxes to help fund public schools?
I don't think we need to.
Where does the money come from?
First of all, the $1 billion that we're sending to private schools.
But that's just $1 billion, though. I mean, the schools need a lot more than that, right?
Like I said, we underspent our budget by $4 billion. We had the capacity to do that. Oftentimes, when you look in a budget, there are places that you can shift spending. Texas asked the federal government for a refund of all the money we spent on Operation Lone Star.
$11 billion, yeah.
That's money that is the federal government's responsibility. We never expanded Medicaid to bring all of those dollars back to Texas to help people get the health care that they need. Right now, we end up pushing that cost to our counties through indigent care in our emergency rooms. We can do so much better. We can look at the budget and move things. I don't know that we have to raise taxes. In fact, Sometimes when you make things so overly complicated, like our school funding formula, it's hard to know where the dollars are really going.
Let's talk about property taxes right now. People are protesting property taxes right now, their valuations for their homes. What's the answer to these unsustainable climbs in the property taxes in this state?
Well, you know, it's interesting you ask about that because, again, our leadership for the last 12 years has been Republican leadership. And why haven't they been able to figure out and solve this problem? And I'm really worried that if we continue down the path of a private school voucher scam, we are going to see our property taxes going up even more. We're paying for a lot of those kids didn't go to public school to begin with. So now we're paying for kids that weren't in public school to go to private school and leaving less for our public schools. So it's going to become a real problem.
But do Democrats have an idea on how to arrest the climb in property taxes?
Do we have an idea on, like I said,
how can Democrats lower my property taxes? I mean, that's an issue that I'll probably be voting on this year.
So the state share has shrunk. So the state share at one point in time
to education,
right, had been 70%. The current state share of education funding is about 36%.
And the idea is that the property owners, homeowners, make up the balance there, right?
Exactly. Local property taxes have to fill the gap. When the state spends less, local property taxpayers are paying more.
So is that the idea for Democrats to put more, is that the idea then for Democrats to put more money into public education?
Yes.
To lower what property owners have to pay?
Exactly, yes. In fact, it's not just a Democratic idea. Back in 2019, Representative Charlie Guerin filed a bill to say that the state's share has to be 50%. It would be a 50-50 split between state and local.
That went nowhere.
It didn't pass.
Yeah, unfortunately it didn't. Let's talk affordability for a moment here. It's an issue that every Texan is facing. It's an issue facing this country right now. What could you do as Lieutenant Governor for affordability in this state?
Well, let's take one of the biggest expenses in the state budget, and that is health care. And that's in most people's daily lives, that's also very expensive. A lot of people go without health insurance because they can't afford it. Maybe their employer doesn't cover it. I've been self-employed for many years, and we saw our health insurance costs go up incredibly every year. And so I think that's one place where there is an opportunity to put more emphasis on preventive care and take a look at what our expenses are. And serving on the insurance committee in the Texas House, that's been one of the goals, to bring down the cost of insurance, health insurance, home insurance, auto insurance. Unfortunately, I don't think they have the ideas that are going to really solve the problems. And I think we go to some of the experts and we say, how are we really going to solve this problem? They are solvable problems, but unfortunately the leadership that we have right now they've had an opportunity. Republicans have been in charge for 30 years, and look where we are right now.
But what do you think the answer is too? Like the home insurance rates, for example, because home insurers are leaving the state.
That's right. Well, one of the ideas that they had last session I thought was very interesting is incentivizing people to use things like metal roofs, because the wind and hail damage is one of the most expensive issues that causes your home insurance to go up. So I think incentivizing materials that will last longer and hold up in the windstorms is one idea. There are other ideas.
That didn't pass last year though, right? That incentivizing program? I didn't remember that one making it out of there. A couple last questions here for you. Zoom out for a moment here. Top 2 priorities if elected, what are they?
Funding our public schools, ending the voucher program. When I'm Lieutenant Governor, I will not pass a budget that has any money going to a private school voucher scam. And then really addressing our health care. We should not be the state with the highest rate of uninsured. We should not be the state that's known for having the highest rate of maternal mortality. My daughter-in-law just had a baby, and she fortunately was in Pennsylvania, and unfortunately, I'm sorry that they're so far away, but she's in a state where she could have gotten care if she had a pregnancy complication. I want to make sure that women in Texas feel safe being pregnant.
And does health care go beyond expanding Medicaid?
I think so. I'd like to see a Texas plan. And the reason is we've had a lot of doctors come to the Capitol and talk about the issues with Medicaid.
For years they've been down there talking about that, right?
The costs aren't covered.
Right.
The cost of care isn't covered by the reimbursement rates, so we need to increase the reimbursement rates. And they oftentimes don't get reimbursed for many months after the care is given. So I think we should have a Texas plan that looks at how can we as Texas provide the best health care at the least expense.
Will you be able to raise the money it requires to go against Dan Patrick in this race? He's sitting on $30 million. He'll raise more than that in the next few months here. This is going to cost a lot of money to run this race.
You know, that's something I work at every single day. We'll raise the money that we need to raise in order to win this election. I feel very confident that, like I said, Texans, after 30 years of Republican leadership, are ready for change.
Biggest misconception about Democrats, what do you think it is?
That we aren't savvy and business friendly. I've been a small business owner myself, and I understand a budget. I understand spending money in a smart way. What the Republicans are doing is not conservative. It's not spending money in a smart way. As a business owner, I can see that we have a long way to go to make sure that we're using taxpayer dollars wisely in Texas.
And one word to describe Dan Patrick, what would that be? One word.
One word.
It's tough. Didn't mean to stump you on one word here, but if you had to sum him up in a couple of words, give me a sentence on Dan Patrick. Why voters should look away from him this time?
Failed leadership. Oh, 2 words.
Two words.
His focus has been on religious freedom, and yet he wants people to follow the religion that he believes in. So that's not religious freedom.
Representative, good luck to you.
Thank you.